Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Not For Broadcast. I'm back, Avery. Back again. Went
Nice,
to
dude.
another tournament without you.
Really happy for you that you're getting all that work. So keep at it, man. Really building that brand.
Thank you. And I had a good time at Blast, but
Yeah, nobody cares, man.
Avery, what have you been up to the last week?
Playing some Dota.
Yeah, you've been get some devastation action last night.
Oh, it was a doozy, man. Oh my god, there were so many divine rapiers. It was out of fucking control. Those games
What?
are something else, dude. They really are. They're a test of will, a test of friendship, a test of mental fortitude. They are something else, dude. I'm telling you, man. I've never experienced something like it.
What was the what was the worst game you've played in the Devastation stack so far?
I mean, there's been a couple notable ones. I don't know if I can pinpoint one, but usually the games where somebody just like mentally rage quits, usually Newsham, because at some point he gets too pissed at what some dumbass is doing, and then
Yeah.
you just realize he hasn't said anything in like 20 minutes, and he has a Midas and he's jungling with Lich. That was a. Usually it's Big L. Big L is the cause. He is the biggest cause of grief because that man does unfathomable shit. And he also doesn't lane really. So if you have to lane with him, you're just kind of fucked. You have to, which is why I've started playing mid. Because then I don't have to lane I don't have the 50-50 toss up of having my game ruined by Big L.
It is funny how Lyrical he's gone through quite an arc, known as probably one of the most wholesome dudes in the talent scene, and has adopted this Big L persona and just seems to get deeper and deeper into it. I mean, I feel like I used to play games with Gabe like a year or two ago, and he did not grief the way he does now.
The thing is, he's too likable and he's still too jolly about it. So you don't even feel like he's griefing you. That's
Yeah.
the mastery of it. It's very subtle. It's a fine art. He's like still playing and he's not necessarily doing anything that constitutes an official grief. But he is griefing you. Like,
Yes, he is griefing.
he's lowering your chance to win. So we'll see. I mean, last night he played his signature Darkseer. There was some internal team debate about the item build.
Yeah, what was
At
his
some
item
point,
build?
someone I think said like, "You're going fucking Echo Saver," and that was that was the last I heard of it. And then at the end of the game, I think he finished with Treads, Echo, AC, Manta, something else.
Why? Why?
I don't know, dude.
I feel like he went Echo Saber and tried to, he's going some sort of right click build, but I don't even feel like he did a good right click build.
I mean, I'm fine with the Echo. I don't even care. It's just I was like watching his last fight. He's just running around in the fight. He had a Bissell. He had a Bissell blade with his last time. And he's like the game went 60 minutes and he got Book of the Dead. That was the cherry on top of Book of the Dead action.
Wait, he built this entire build up of this right click Darkseer and then went Book of the Dead.
So he goes and he tries to push the last Rax and he like summons Book and Manta Darkseer Illusions and he's pushing it with this fucking AC Abyssal and he's getting it. And then they come and kill him. And this ensuing fight that he has like 10 seconds to do anything, he just does like nothing. He doesn't Abyssal. He doesn't Manta. He doesn't wall back. He just like runs around and dies. It's just shit like that is mind boggling, bro. Like, I don't know. You just don't. It's just a different world. It's a different world, man. It's not even the same plane of existence. My eyes have been opened. I'll put it that way.
You've been open to the true nature of Dota.
The true nature of human existence.
Oh, okay.
Is how I'd put it. I don't know if it's a Dota thing, but yeah, the bottom of the human soul. It's what I've been exposed to. It's gnarly. It's not good.
Well, did you watch any of the Blast Slam event?
Of course, my favorite casters were casting. Odie Pixel and Fogged wasn't there.
Fogged wasn't there. Odie Pixel and Who
Who
was
did he
casting with
cast
Owen?
with, actually? I already forgot. No, I watched the games, though. What the fuck? Why is my brain just like blanking on this? Oh, Owen and Lacoste.
There you go. Good job. You got there in the end.
Yeah. It's because you don't normally see Owen with anybody else. Like, I actually can't
Yeah.
remember the last time I saw Owen cast with anybody else for an event. I don't think ever. He
It's
usually just
happened a
doesn't
few
go.
times. It's
Like, if
happened a few
Fog doesn't
times.
go, he usually just doesn't go, right? So
Yeah.
it's pretty rare. It's a rare one. Unlike other casters who will just fucking mercenary their way into any event without any regard for human life. So, at least Owen has some dignity. That's why I don't mind watching him every now and then. And he still has some pride left. Still fights for the same banner lord, unlike your fucking treacherous ass. But what can we do? We got to work with what we got, That's life.
you know, on that note, I got feedback from Blast.
Oh, did you? That's...
Yeah.
Hmm.
They said, we really liked your duo with Synderen.
I bet they did. I bet they're... You know what? My prediction is they're going to rehire you guys, honestly.
No. I told them this is a one-time thing. I said, we're not making a habit of this. All right. I don't mind standing in for another play-by-play every once in a while, but I'm not, we're not going to just make this a new thing. So
no, it's fine with me, man. It's fine with me. Go.
we'll see what comes of that.
Spread your wings.
What did you think about the event? Because this event was different in a lot of ways.
I mean, I think the event production and everything was top notch. I didn't have issue with any of that. The HUD was awful. I've expressed this before though. Like, it's space. I know what it is. It's like corporate structure, and corporate structure means you always have to improve. Because if you're not improving, then you can't justify your job. And so, like, you have to find things to make better or different than other people. One, to justify that you're actually doing something, and two, to stand out from the crowd. That part I understand. Like, if you want to differentiate yourself from all the other TOs, having an overlay where people see it and instantly recognize it as your tournament is valuable. So that part I understand. But the degree to which they did it is actually made the viewing experience worse, like legitimately. And I don't think I was the only one.
No, you were not. There was a lot of feedback.
It wasn't just that it was large. Like, I think the size you can get used to was the actual information they were giving was just in a worse way. My glance value was worse. The ability for me to discern information quickly was worse. It's just bad, poorly designed, like flat out. I would tell them that too. I don't understand. So I think they'll probably change that. Obviously, I'm sure they got a lot of feedback, not just for me. But that's honestly my biggest complaint. Everything else, production wise, was top notch. I didn't have an issue with it. I thought the format. Well, we'll get to the format. I think the set design was actually pretty cool too. Yep. Having the like circular thing in the middle felt very cozy and multi-layered. And the lighting and everything was pretty good. The player cameras were good. The B stream thing was kind of cool, or their idea to at least put other streamers on site and have them as an alternative still in the studio, I think was a pretty smart way to do it. Especially if they eventually get Gork or someone there. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, that was Gork was supposed to be the B stream.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So
but he missed his train apparently or something, and
wow, unlucky.
So then we just filled the gap. They're just like, what do we do with this B stream? Well, we'll take it.
I think it makes some sense. I don't know how well it works, like being able to hear other people in the same space, but whatever, minor tech thing to figure out. I think the format was the other thing I had issue with. I'm not a fan of this format from a hardcore Dota fan standpoint. From a casual fan, is okay, I guess, but man, not a lot of like tournament depth integrity / I don't know what the other term for it is, but like basically I do not feel like the best teams proved they were the best in this format. You did not play a lot of games. It reminds me of that major, the Birmingham major, whatever, from years and years ago, where it's like you played like 4 BO1s and then a BO3 and you were in the grand final.
Yeah,
that's basically what this format was. You play like 5 BO1s, a single BO3, and you're in the grand final. Is that enough to say you're like the best team there? I just feel like it's kind of clowny in that regard. Teams don't have a lot of series or games to even really adjust to a meta. They don't have a lot of games to adjust their own gameplay if they start out rough and make a run. There's just none of that versatility or depth. that I think really makes lands Dota lands, because eventually the best teams become better over the course of the tournament. But you just didn't see that here. Like Falcons get eliminated by like Neustadtel and basically losing one more game than other teams who ended up like top 3. Way too much volatility for me. But if you don't really care about that and you just want to run a fun event and get through games fast and have probably an easier schedule of production and talent wise, only having 2 BO3s a day, yeah, those are the benefits. So I don't think it's a bad format. I just think my personal preference is I like tournaments that have a lot, the double bracket and larger group stage, because I think you get to see better teams develop more. But
Yeah.
in terms of speed, aerodynamics, the cutting it down,
Yeah.
I guess that's good. I also, though, I wasn't sure like why you'd want to do that as a TO.
Because theoretically you have the best team not in the broadcast for several days.
Well,
Right.
there's that part, but also like their viewer hours must have been atrocious compared to almost any other TO who's running the same amount of days. Like their viewer hours per day were awful because you're just not playing as many games.
Yeah.
I feel like normally the TOs want to jam as many games in a day, like 4 BO3s a day, like ESL does, or you have like
Dream
4
League
group
it up.
stage streams going, right? Like you're looking for volume. You're looking for viewer hours and volume because that's how you're going to generate ad money, gambling money, whatever it is that's sponsoring your tournament. Maybe they don't care about any of that. I don't know what their financial situation is, but that's logistically what I found surprising about the format is it didn't make a lot of logical sense to me, because normally you're looking for viewer hours, and this format is almost anti-viewer hour. Like there's so many days that are 2 BO3s a day, and that's it. Like you have like 6 hours of gameplay and you're done, maybe even less sometimes. I was like, damn, like I'm sure Talon enjoyed it, but as a viewer, I easily could have watched another series for sure, right? And I think most viewers will sometimes watch 3 to 4. So that part I also found a little weird, but I'm sure they have their internal reasons.
So to rewind a little bit, as far as production, start with the UI. they did give us a look at the UI and ask for feedback. And I gave a lot of feedback on it. And they kind of stuck to their guns. They didn't really change too much about it. And then they made some things better, and then it was a lot more obvious once we were watching it. We were giving feedback, and then obviously Reddit was giving a lot of feedback. But like they were able to improve and iterate on it pretty much every single day. So that part was really cool, to see that they were actively working on the product and making it better through feedback. That was nice. But I will say the glance value was absolutely killer as a caster. It was like it legitimately made it much harder to cast the game, because I'm working off the program feed, so I'm working off of that UI. So I was just like, there were so many times where like they fixed the buyback at some point in time. They like gave a gold highlight to a hero that like bought back that stayed for like 10 seconds or something like that. But initially there was nothing. So if I lost track of a hero that died, and then like I wouldn't know that they had died and bought back in the team fight. Like
But what
maybe
is
they
the
had actually
ultimate
lived.
justification? Like, I don't understand. Their HUD didn't show anything that the normal Dota HUD doesn't.
Well, it showed items. It showed everybody's items.
Yeah, okay.
That
I
part
mean,
was extra
sure, but
information. That part that part I kept arguing against over and over and over again. And the other analysts were like, "No, it's amazing. I get to see every hero's items all the time." I'm like, just like, it's way too much information. Like you are completely overloading there's already so much information in Dota. You're already changing so much about how to be able to read that. Throwing, that extra bit, I personally thought it wasn't necessary. They did it was toggleable, so it wasn't on all the time. That was a good little wrinkle that they added to it, but I still kind of disagree with it. I feel like you should just have like key items. I don't need to see every branch that's in somebody's inventory, but I could see BKBs, what phase boots, what boots they're wearing, and the cooldowns on them, BKBs, blink daggers. that sort of thing.
I actually don't even think it matters. Like, I don't think the viewer cares what items everybody has at any given moment. They care what items people get that are going to change and impact the game, and then
Yeah.
it's in their brain. And then you remember that they have it. I actually think the best new version of that I saw was what they did at BB Dacha. They had the courier delivery system on the right that just showed every time a courier was delivering items to a player what it was.
Mm.
I don't know if you ever saw that. It wasn't really. I don't think it was on our feeds. I don't even know if it was on every game. Maybe it wasn't even them, but I'm pretty sure it was them. Where it had like little lines on the right side of the screen, where if a courier was delivering items to a player, it just showed what was on the courier being delivered. And I actually really like that because one, it's very small and it's unobtrusive, and it fits in with the Dota HUD. And two, then I don't have. That's what I would normally track as a caster in game anyway. Is I'm normally clicking on heroes to see what they're getting next or what they're having delivered. That just automatically does it for me. I thought that was amazing because then you can just see like, oh, the BKB is done. It's being delivered, right? And the fact
Yeah.
that it shows it being delivered means you're getting information of that item was completed. That's what's the important part to me. So like, I actually like something like that because then I think you're highlighting important information out of a pool of a lot. But I think just giving viewers all the information is almost universally bad in anything. Because
Agreed.
like if the guy uses all the information, he will go and watch in the fucking game client because he
Yes.
wants all the information, right? Like you're not watching a stream to get all the information. It doesn't make any sense because all the information is already available in there. You can just go
Or
watch in
there's
game
the
client.
Twitch plugin, right? Where
Yeah,
you
that
get
as
extra
well.
information that way as well. So
That's where I'm going. These things are just like redundancies. Like if you're not actually providing new information or you're not providing information faster or better than you can already get it, then I don't see the purpose of it.
yeah, it
Even
should
if
be
you're
streamlined. You don't just
yes,
throw extra information, you streamline information.
yeah. And to me this didn't really improve anything, but obviously I'm an old school, you know, memory ingrained Dota viewer, so maybe I'm not the target audience for this, but I feel like that is most of the Dota audience, so
Yeah. I do think people got more used to it. Obviously, I got more used to it over time. I do think the viewers generally got more used to it. I saw like their post feedback thread. I expected it just to be full of people complaining about the UI. It wasn't actually that way. So I do think people got more used to it and they appreciated the improvements that happened. But I do largely disagree with. I don't think Dota is a game that you should change the UI. I think Valve did a very good job with Dota's UI. And it's like the same thing with the draft. I always say, like, don't fuck with the draft too much. Like, if you're doing like one of those
yeah.
setups where you have, LAN setups where you actually have cameras on the players and stuff, like, great. But if you're doing like an online tournament, like, just don't fuck with the draft. The draft, as in the game, already gives you all the information you need. And almost every single time they fuck with the draft, it gives you less information. And therefore, I think it's worse. So, but I appreciate the attempt of improvements being made on. There were a couple other things that I thought were really interesting. I believe they told me that I don't, you did you. I mean, you're a music guy. Did you notice the music that they used for this tournament?
The ambient drum stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently they custom made that for Dota, which I thought was pretty interesting. Since
Cool.
they're doing the next 2 years of tournaments, and I felt like it really fit. There was, it's like that and Dream League are the only times that I felt like the music that they bring to the tournament actually like makes it a better at all. This was one of the few times that maybe it's just because they told me that, and then therefore I was paying attention to it. But I did feel like it fit
Huh.
Dota pretty well. Other production stuff. Oh yeah, the studio that they're in. Apparently they build, so they have this like studio, and every tournament they build something up and then they tear it down. So that studio may not be that setup may not be the thing that they do for the next Blast Slam. So it'll be interesting what kind of changes they make in that regard. What they do with the B stream, for example, and yeah, all that sort of jazz. Um, yeah, format wise, I feel like format was. I appreciated that it was something different, but I do fully agree. I was telling Cinderin the whole time. I was like, one of the top three teams are not going to win this event. And that's just because I feel like you're not getting the same depth amount of games you're talking about. You don't actually get to get the room for improvement. Amar talked about it. I recorded the podcast with Amar yesterday, and he talked about the fact that like they didn't really scrim going into this tournament. So for them, the group stage is kind of like their scrims, but the group stage was super short. So like they really didn't get much time to actually like improve, which they normally would for a lot of these tournaments. Um, but I wanted to know, like, just like I think with the UI, I'm going to guess that they're going to improve on this format because I do think it could be improved. But what do you think they should improve? Because I do like the fact that they went away from uh just these, standard round robin double elimination. We're gonna have too many tournaments to for us all to be doing the same thing, right? PGL does Swiss, that's cool. I think it's Dream League does the double group stage. I think Blast, this format is definitely different, and I would like to improve upon it. And I'm curious what you think they should do in that regard. What did you have the bigger problem with? The best of one group stage or the single elimination seeded bracket?
I mean, it's a combination. If you make the group stage BO3s and then you seed them into this like shotgun single elim up the ladder thing, I think it's better because then you have more integrity of where those teams got seeded. So the guy going to the series before the grand finals deserves it more instead of being like he won 2 more BO1s. Like, what the fuck does that say in Dota? It means nothing, right?
Yeah.
Um, so you can make that. You can make the group stage BO3 and longer, and then seed into this single limb if you want that hype, or you can do a different. You can just do BO1s in group and you can double bracket it, but then you're like other tournaments. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's only 2 places you can add extra integrity, and those are your only choices. Um, I don't know. I don't mind the format of you have like 2 sides of this bracket, and then it's like teams playing through this ladder chain to get to the finals. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of cool. I think you could even differentiate that more. I don't necessarily know how, but you could do like you have 2 lives, but you still play on one side of this ladder. I don't know. You could
Hmm.
do some wacky stuff, but I just think you want more games out of the event. I think that's my conclusion. I
Yeah.
rarely say that, but like they were really light on games. I'm not sure why. So you got to get more in somewhere. Like you easily could fit a third BO3 in all those main stage days.
Yeah, yeah. We did end up having some long days just because, especially the first 1 or 2 days of playoffs, the games went really late. There was the game that it broke and then they couldn't reload it. That was pretty terrible. Apparently, Valve has instituted though now a thing that the games auto save every like 10 seconds or something like that. So now you can reload into those games. That is apparently a new thing that they just added in. So hopefully a situation like that won't ever happen again.
Hmm.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting information that got passed along to me. The best one group stage day, by the way, I'm not sure if you watched any of that. They had that fucking streamlined to shit. Holy fuck. I have never had a faster casting day than that 5 best of 1s in a row. We closed out the first one. It was, and so for that situation, right? We're doing the pregame and the draft, like we did at Bet Boom. So we're doing the pregame, we're doing the draft, we do the game, we close out the game, boom, 3 minute break, and then we're back on. And I was just like, holy shit. And it was just nonstop. We had like very little downtime as the casting, which I think, like from my experience, it was like a little too fast. But I imagine from a viewing experience, it had to have been really good, just because there was very little downtime to the games. You just got game after game after game, which I thought was pretty cool. It was actually, I actually asked them, I was like, guys, I need to eat. Can we make it a 5 minute break instead of a 3 minute break? Um, they also did a thing where they went to the casters before. I think they just needed something where they would have the panel, the pregame panel, and then they went to the casters to break it up, because then they had the draft panel. But some of the analysts that were on, that panel needed to go over the draft panel, so they would go to the casters. That part I didn't like, but I know why they did it. I guess my biggest suggestion is I hope they find something different, um, to fill that hole. Just because I felt like going to the casters, there wasn't really much to say or do from my perspective. I felt like we were just, I don't know, kind of repeating what was already said.
Yeah, I never like those bits. I think they're useless, and I think they break up the broadcast in a way where you go to them and you have to go back to who you were with and then back to them again. And I
Yeah.
think that sequence is terrible. I think when ESL does it, it's also bad, to be honest. But
Yeah.
at least they're doing it in theory in like a casual setting before the game officially starts. It's like a filler. Okay. I mean, the way Blast was doing it wasn't really like that, though. It was like a segment. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was very confusing, honestly. I forgot that aspect. But you're like watching a desk with a host with analysts, and then you go draft, and then it's just two of the analysts on their own. And you're like, okay. And then they throw to like the casters, and it's like a two caster bit. And then it goes somewhere else, and then it goes in game or something.
No.
Or
So
it just goes in game.
It goes panel, and then okay, the draft is about to start, so they go to the casters, and then we throw it to the draft panel, which is the two guys standing.
See, it's so confusing. I don't even fucking remember it, dude. Like, all I know is getting thrown around, and at some point, the host is just gone. Like, the host just never came back, and that's what's confusing because you don't have that piece to anchor it to like here is what you come back to. Normally, you would come back to the anchor, which is the host. So that's why it was just very confusing. Like, I almost feel like why even have a host? Like, what was the function of the host if it's not hosting the actual show? It's just facilitating the analyst discussion, which is when the host arguably says the least. Like, that was again very confusing. Like, I don't know. You actually could have run that show without a host. I think it wouldn't have actually changed that much because you had a bunch of segments effectively being hosted by whoever was running them, which was either the casters or that like 2-man draft panel. And some of those were, you could tell were a little awkward because I don't think people are used to hosting their own segments.
Yeah. like they had to do
clearly
throws and stuff, and
and
it was always
you have you had T-Gov doing a bunch of
stilted.
throws and stuff, which he's not used to. You had Fear doing some throws, and it was just like, okay, it's not on them. It's just they've never done that shit, so it was like it's gonna be awkward the first times you do it. So it's just like, what's the host doing? that's what I'm just sitting there wondering. Like, it just felt a little weird from a Dota perspective, but maybe it's something
one thing the host
more
did
used in other shows or whatever. I don't know.
One thing the host did that I really liked is Nat had to do all these pregame interviews, and we have all of these interviews all the time in esports where it's two people standing next to each other. And Blast did it in the more traditional sports setup where it is the interviewers behind the camera and they're holding the microphone forward, and all you're getting is a shot of the player. And I thought that was a great improvement to interviews. I thought that was much better. Slacks is telling me there's like a psychological reason for it. When there was like only one person on screen versus multiple people, you're more likely to like tune in, and you relax more as well at the same time. Yeah, he said it was something interesting about just having one person fill the space that is better for the human brain, which I thought was pretty interesting. I definitely think it looks a lot better. I think the person themselves, they're also like tilted a little bit, so they look 3-dimensional as opposed to the straight on shot with two people standing next to each other. So it actually gives a little bit more depth, makes them feel like a real person. So that was one thing that stood out to me that I hope we do for other tournaments, just because I think it's a huge improvement.
I don't know. I like the NBA interviews where they just go on the court after the game and just like wrangle some dude, and then it's a guy. It's like it's a dude or woman who's just like clearly 3 feet shorter than the guy.
Yeah,
just like doing this, asking him questions, and then while you're interviewing the guy, like his buddies come up and fucking say random shit into the mic. I like that, dude. We need more of that. We need to like interview the guy right when the Dota game ends, so that his stupid clown teammates come up and like say shit behind him while he's doing the interview.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think the more that we have those, more of the whole team being a part of it in some way is always nice. Team wise, though, for this tournament, we did have some upsets, which again I think comes as no surprise to either one of us. As you said, Spirit didn't even make it out of, or Spirit did make it out of groups. Everybody made out of groups, but they didn't make it out of the first round, where they played up against Heroic and ended up losing, which I thought was still a really great story, just because Heroic, obviously, with the whole Parker kick, they got to prove that they could still do something. And then they go to take off a game off of Vision as well, something that Liquid failed to do. So they kind of proved that, hey, Parker wasn't the whole enchilada.
Yeah, we'll see.
Avery remains skeptical.
I mean, I've said my piece on that. You can go watch the previous episode. I
Yeah.
do not have high hopes, but we'll see.
What'd you make of Falcons and Gaming Gladiators in their run? Because Falcons they beat OG 2-1. Okay. Then they run into Game of Gladiators. They get 2-0. Then Game of Gladiators runs into Extreme. They get 2-0. I mean, the between that and Liquid, there goes your top three. Your top three is just, out.
Gaming looked slightly better. I guess they're trying to play a little more towards Watson's strengths and like some late game scaling. Still always surprised when they pull out those like 60-minute wins, but it's super dependent on what Quinn's hero is. I think if he's playing things like Queen of Pain, then I think their chance to win those late games goes up by a huge fucking margin. But that's like, I don't know how many of those types of heroes there are. Like Storm would be another one, maybe the old school Ember or Void, but these heroes aren't that strong or popular. I still think Gaiman looks kind of weak, though, to be honest. Like, I don't have high hopes for them going into the next event or two. They still have a lot of shit to fix. Doesn't mean they can't get there by the end of the season, but I'm not seeing massive leaps right now. I think Falcons, I'm sure they would complain that the format did not do them favors, but I actually just think they weren't as keyed in on the meta fast enough to perform. And I think that is a skill set. Obviously, larger group stage helps you in that result. We've seen that team have a lot of like really rough day ones. I remember some of these events, they go 0-4 on day one, and then they pull it together, right? I think BB Dacha, they won 0-4 on day one or something. It's been a couple of those events, and people are like, oh, they're just going to get eliminated, and then like they win it. So they have really smart players and a coach, so they figure stuff out, but it probably takes some time. So this format doesn't help them, but I think that they weren't exactly on the meta, and I think
for you, what do you think the meta was or is?
Well, I'm not saying it's like a fixed meta. I just think, I mean, meta's a loose term. I just think they didn't like what they were playing wasn't that strong in the grand scheme of things. Like they're always trying to figure out what Skeeter plays because I think that's a huge component of it. And his hero pool, I did not have a lot of faith in it. Like he's playing Wraith King again.
Right, yeah, Wraith King. You gotta be truly desperate if you're going.
Yeah, it's like
Wraith King.
Like he does make the hero look viable, but I don't care. Like even if he can win with the hero, make it look good, I still think the hero's bottom barrel, just impact on paper. So you're kind of winning with dog shit hero. Yeah, you can do that, but it just tells me that his pool still isn't that great outside of like this alchemist hero. So stuff like that. Like you have the Snaking Enchantress that's really good, but I think it lost its first game there in like a 20-win streak or something. And to be honest, I watched that OG series. They should have lost that series. They're not going to like me saying that. And I know they will all argue that they win that game 3, but like I'm telling you, dude, I'm watching that game 3. First off, like OG choked the fuck out of that game like 3 times. I have any other like team that has more longevity and is better put together closes out that game 100%. So the argument that they should win that game is bullshit to begin with. But even when the game DC'd at 80 minutes, I still think OG were favored to win that game, given the map position. So I think they just get eliminated in that series. If you look at it from that sense, like they did not have a great event, which is kind of how I evaluate it.
What did you think of the game 3 situation? So 80 minutes, right? game fucks off. They have to remake. And both
Oh, by the
teams.
way, the instant that happened, I knew that game was gone. I fucking knew that game was
Oh,
gone.
yeah.
And they're all sitting there like, you're sitting there. Were you casting that one?
No,
I
I
think
wasn't.
no.
No.
Like, Owen, whoever was casting out, I don't remember. You guys are all the same.
Owen and
You're all,
Lucas,
they're like saying, they're like, don't worry. Yeah, it was Owen. He's like, don't worry. We're going to get right back in the game. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back. And I'm like, Owen, that game is fucking gone, dude. It is absolutely gone. I know a gone game when I see it. Like I saw how it DC'd, and like the fact that the players were trying to reconnect and couldn't because I could tell they weren't. I'm like, that game's fucking gone. And every 30 seconds, Owen's just like, don't worry, we're getting the players back in right now. I'm like, I don't know if the production's telling him to say that or he's looking at something else. I'm like, there ain't no fucking player in that lobby, and there ain't gonna be. So that was fucking hilarious. But anyway, continue.
So there was I think from what I saw, I believe Reddit jumped the gun and thought that Falcons insisted on same draft and same starting items, and they got their way. Not the case at all. OG was the one who wanted the same draft and same items. And everybody that I have talked to so far has universally agreed that that was a bad idea for OG. They said that, like, there's no way that you do the same draft because you got one up on Falcons, but they're going to fix the mistakes that they made in that game 3, and it's going to result in, it's going to be a very different outcome. That was like, I talked to like 3 or 4 different pro players and they all said that. You agree with that?
I mean, it's kind of a hindsighty thing. Like if they had won, you'd say different. I agree conceptually because I think they effectively won that game. Whether they threw it or not, they won that game. And your chances to win the same game against Falcons twice has got to be pretty low. So I would probably gamble on a new draft. The issue is if you look at the series trajectory, there's 2 factors here that might have skewed them. One is their confidence winning a game 4 in general, because it felt like if there was another game, Falcons were probably favored in that game. Like they were starting to pull that, like they got put on the ropes in like this game 2 and 3, and then they were starting to pull it back. Like they were starting to play pretty well by the end of game 3. I think they were in the hole, but they were honestly probably playing better. And so you're looking at that, like if we go in another game, are we playing better right now? The answer is probably no. So then you have to evaluate, well, is our chance to win this game 4 higher with a gamble on a new draft where they're finding their momentum and figuring out more of the heroes they want against us and might be a stronger drafting team at that point, or just run it back with something we know we can beat them with? Right? Like, do you give them the opportunity to outdraft you, I guess is what it comes down to. If you feel like they might in that game 4. Because you can't sit there and just be like, oh, we're going to outdraft everybody every game forever. Like, no team does that. It's a give and take. Sometimes you outdraft people, sometimes they outdraft you, and it goes back and forth a little bit, unless you're like a TI champion and you run the gauntlet and no one can touch you. That's not the case here. So I feel like it was probably draft favored for Falcons if it went to a game 4. And I think that pushes you to stick with the same lineup, even if it's like not that fun to do. So I think there are arguments both ways, actually. I don't think you can ignore them, but if it were me, I probably would have taken a new draft. I would have gambled on a new draft and maybe just done something even wilder. The other factor there, though, is like how much of their confidence in that win was with that Morphling, because they did not look good without the Morphling, and they would not have gotten Morphling into game 4, I think. And so if they're sitting there going, guys, we're not going to get Morphling into game 4, do our odds just drop by 15 or 20%? Like they gave it to us in game 3. They fucked up. We effectively won that game. We get a game 4 with Morphling because they can't redraft. That's pretty powerful in itself. So that's the other argument that I found for keeping it the same.
That was the running theory, that they felt like that they weren't going to get Morphling again in a new draft. So people thought that was why OG stuck it out, because they were just too reliant on the Morphling and said, we're not going to be able to get it, so we want the same draft.
That goes back to what I talked about either the previous episode or the one before that, where like you have to look at things long term. And if you're going into this saying we as a team can't win without Morphling, then you're fucked anyway. So like, I would honestly throw that argument out the window. I think it's a logical one, but I think you have to throw it out the window because it leads you to bad conclusions. Like you're
Sure.
basically saying we can't beat this team in a game 4 with any other heroes except 23 Savage Morphling. Like, how are you gonna fucking win this event then? So like,
Yeah.
who cares if you make it one more series, right? Like, do you think Falcons cared they made it one more series? No, makes no fucking difference. So you have to have this mentality you're gonna win the event, and you're not winning the event if you're that dependent on one hero. I mean, maybe there's some crazy world where it's like just there versus that team and just that game you're that dependent, but come on, we were all watching those games and that was not the case. So
We go through the tournament. Liquid, Game of Gladiators, Falcons all drop out. The top 4 ends up being Bet Boom versus Parivision, Tundra versus Extreme. Both of these are the 2 top seeded teams, Bet Boom and Tundra, and they both 2-0'd the teams coming up through the bracket. Which was a little surprising to me that they were still, like, I thought not playing for, it's like the TI break before the finals, right? I thought players really agree that it's just like, it's not a good thing. And I thought that break for them was going to be bad, but proved that I guess they were just absolutely the 2 best teams. And as a result, we had a Bet Boom versus Tundra finals, which meant one of 2 things. Either Pure was going to win his first LAN event, or Nightfall was going to win his first LAN event. There was going to be a win somewhere in there. Bet Boom had a chance to be able to break the curse that was on them, where they've had like 4 second place at tier 1 events. Granted, that second place comes at losing to Falcons 3 times and Game and Gladiators once. So the fact that they didn't have to play either one of those guys, I feel like is it just feels like everything was lining up for Bet Boom to win, honestly.
volatile bracket can do that. So they're generally a team that starts out strong as well. So they didn't have to play some super long event, helps them. Kind of surprised that Tundra looked as weak as they did in games 3 and 4. I'm not sure what the hell happened. Maybe the end of an era. I'm just saying. I don't know. Kind of spooky. You got some of your Siggies on 33, but just wasn't able to find the same impact. So I don't know. Kind of a little worrying for them, but obviously still super good team with an incredible foundation. I'm sure they'll figure it out. But yeah, GPK stand-in gets the dub. What a monster. Can't do it when he's on the team, but like when you kick him, that's when he shines. He just finds another level in the humbleness of being removed from the roster. He levels up. Another weird situation as they're now going to fly to another tournament and then plug in the 2 dudes that were missing in the coach and Kiyotaka, who now they all want to land without them. That's a little murky in terms of the team dynamic there. But
I mean, especially since Kiyotaka was already one of the players to look at. You yourself pointed to Kiyotaka as the reason you thought this roster would not work.
Yeah, I don't have faith in him yet. But
would you have more faith in it if they replaced it with GPK?
Honestly, yeah. My issue with the GPK was never really the gameplay, honestly. I think I actually rate his gameplay better than a lot of other people do. His issue was always like, what is this guy doing in the team environment? Because we just don't know, but it always seems like there's some weird undercurrent. Yeah, it's just like it seems like he's tilting out in games or like pseudo griefing, like when he unpauses on his own teammate and shit like this. It's like I can't tell if it's just like young airheadedness or if it's actual toxicity. And it's hard to know. If the guy's actually toxic, then what can you do? I understand people not playing with him, but gameplay wise, I think he's stronger for sure. That guy is not a weak player. Like he's a fairly good laner. He's not going to win. He's not going to dominate the top laners, but he's going to hold his own. He has a pretty wide hero pool. He just plays solid. Like he rarely fucks up in fights. He doesn't throw games that hard, and he will dominate the games that he should. So I rate him as like an 8 out of 10 mid, Like he's not in my top 3 or 4 mids in the game right now, but He's in that 5 to 6 spot, and I think that is more than good enough for you to win lands when you have other players that are arguably the best in their position in the world, which is what Pure's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
Like you only need one of that on your team. You don't need like 3 or 4. So I think he's a good fit. Where I think Kiyotaka is just guy's so volatile. Like, how do you fucking win a land with this guy? It's so hard because every other game he's either winning it solo or throwing it. It's just like you have to have a steel mentality to play with this guy, like super veteran players or something. So that's why I think it's just hard.
Yeah. I do think that you talked about how 33 is playing Sim Siggies and did not manage to pull out wins in those last 2 games. I felt like a good amount of that is maybe 33's player to player matchup against Pure is just not good, right? Because he isn't able to get as much out of the lane, or even when he does, it seems like Pure is better at like recovering than most carries. I mean, that Draw Ranger game, what he did there was, like he I thought he was screwed, and then came in halfway through the game, was just demolishing people.
I also think Pure is he's a weird carry in that he'll literally pick any hero in the game regardless of the meta if he thinks it's good for the lane in the game overall. Like he'll pick a Slark, he'll pick Ursa, he'll pick Lone Druid, he'll pick carry Leshrac, he'll play carry Dawnbreaker, the carry Magnus, the carry OD, right? Pudge. Like he will literally play any hero versus you at any point, regardless of the meta. He will do it in the grand finals, too. The man doesn't care. So like it's kind of hard to cheese him, I think. Like it's kind of hard to play this Visage into him because he will pick something that's like equally cheesy. Like he will pick Bristleback carry. He will pick Dawnbreaker carry and like kill you 4 times, And versus like most other carries, you're gonna be playing in some Luna or Alchemist or whatever, and like you can get your advantage on lane. But this guy is kind of weird. I do think it makes him more volatile. Like he can also have those games where he picks Slark and I'm gonna kill you, and then he dies 3 times, and you're like, oh, this is fucking dog shit. But he will also have those games where he plays like the carry Dawnbreaker and goes like 15-0, and you're not going to really find another carry player in the world who's going to do that in a grand final, just bust it out. So he's kind of a hard player to draft and lane against because unless you see his hero early, it's like, what the fuck is this guy going to play? And then it's harder to construct your lane, I think, which is, I think, part of 33 success. He really likes, I think, understanding what the lane's going to be and planning it out and getting a really strong duo. Like he wants his lane to shine between the 3 and the 4 to accelerate his hero, right? He wants the Bounty Visage or the Doom Visage or these little combinations that we've seen him play with Zoxa since that Tundra lineup. He wants those to shine and succeed. And if those just run into some like ultra cheese lane with some weird hero that you've never played the matchup before, it's kind of hard to plan that out. You kind of have to just play it more on feel. And I mean, Pure is like, this guy seems like the ultimate feel player, to be honest. Like I have not seen a player play as much on the feel of the game in a long time as this guy. So yeah, it could be an interesting matchup. I'd like to see that matchup more over the course of the year. Maybe the 2 best players in their role at the moment.
Yeah.
Two number ones. Like I don't know who's a better carry player than Pure right now. I think the only argument is Yatoro, but he's inactive. So like can't put him up there. The man's inactive. I don't care if he's got 20,000 MMR. He's inactive.
Did you see the Impractical Joker style interviews that we did? The no one man. I feel like that interview. I feel like the most angry he got was me saying Yatoro was washed. Because apparently, according to his team, he fucking loves Yatoro. He's just all about that guy. He thinks he's just the greatest player to ever touch the game. So
I mean, there's a lot of people who think that. So
yeah,
it's not a bad opinion.
No, it's not at all. It's just he seemed particularly offended. The implication that Yatoro was
I actually liked the concept as a good bit. But the one problem you guys ran into is that the issue with Dota is like every interview is a cross-language, cross-cultural interview.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of the subtle sarcasm or irony or that kind of stuff gets lost in translation because the guy being interviewed doesn't, like, all he's trying to think about is understanding the question and answering it properly.
Yep.
because English is probably not his first language, you know? So you're like asking these like jokey questions, and I can see the guy registering like it's not really right, but I can also see him maybe thinking like, is this just the English way of saying something, you know?
Sure.
And so he's still just trying to answer the question. So it's like it doesn't actually troll as much as I think it should if
Yeah.
you did it to like Gunner or fucking Arteezy or something, right? I think
Yeah.
it'd be super straightforward and it'd be a lot funnier. It was still pretty good. I was still entertained. I watched them.
Yeah.
That was my only criticism, but obviously you can't really do much about that. Like it's just
Yeah.
that's life.
Yeah. They they actually cut some of the interviews. There were a couple more questions in there that they decided not to air because the players asked questions that were maybe not something they wanted to broadcast. So
Interesting.
it was like there was one question was asking like Davai Lama apparently like you're not sleeping very well and something like that, and he's like yeah I couldn't really sleep, and then they told you just interrupt in the middle of Davai Lama saying yeah I'm having trouble, so it's not a sexual thing. It's not a sexual thing that you're like you're rooming with I don't remember who is rooming with, but and he was just like what. And Blast was like, it's funny, but I don't know if we want to air this. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. But
Yeah, I almost don't know if you even should have had the teammates in the bit. I mean, it's a way to get more of them in the content, so I get that.
yeah,
But I think they're not honestly going to do it well. And I think the bit has to be feigning a lack of knowledge, I think is the bit. So the more that you just pretend you don't know the guy at all or what he's done or what team he's on or like what he plays, I think is the bit. But
yeah.
I don't know how much you can just repeat that as well.
The payoff
So,
doesn't work as well though, because like at the end of the video, like I think a couple things should have been improved, such as like they needed to film the teammates interacting with him after the interview, right? For one thing, but like yeah, the whole payoff of like oh, it was your teammates doing it, not me or us. There isn't that payoff if it's just like, yeah, I just had to say whatever Slacks was saying. And Slacks is the asshole asking you those questions. It's just like that doesn't really hit quite as well as like, oh, it was your teammates and friends doing it.
yeah.
I
Oh,
don't
it's a weird construction. I'm not really sure. That's Slacks' job. I'm not going to fucking fix his content
know.
for him.
True.
Piece of shit does enough already.
We are going to see Slacks for ESL One Thailand, which we are
Damn it.
both going to. ESL One Bangkok. We are both leaving tomorrow. So
Wait.
by the time this is aired, we are probably already in the air or possibly already in Thailand. Anything you're looking forward to for this event? Because there are a lot of different teams than all the other tournaments that have been going on so far. First of all, we've got Avulus is going to be there. Navi is going to be there. Nigma is going to be there. I think probably the team I'm most interested in is this Gaoju team, which is Ame, Paparazzi, JT, Q, and DY. They're supposed to be the new top dog of China. They beat Extreme in order to get that spot in the first place. So that'll definitely be interesting.
My boy Paparazzi's back. The true rank 1 player. Get this fucking Yatoro scrub out of here. This guy's the true number 1 MMR in the world and always has been.
Are you a big Paparazzi fan?
I am a fan, and like I think the scene is better with him in it.
Okay, sure.
But is he like the best player in the world? No. It's not even close. But I think he's like a super interesting player to watch, and it's super fun to watch because he has a very distinct style and it's very weird. Like he's always doing something, you're just unsure if it's actually good or not, but he's so high skill that it's kind of cool to watch. So I like watching the guy. I think the scene's better with him in it. I don't know. I haven't seen him play in a long time. Maybe he's just fucking a beast now. Maybe he's just been hyperbolic training.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Anything could happen. Him on a team with Ame, it sounds pretty damn greedy, but at least they have some sacrificial supports to make it work. Oh,
Yeah, Jin Q,
oh.
DY. Boom, Shopify and Beast Coast are going to be there, so we're going to see a Southeast Asian team, which I feel like, has there been a C team at any of these tournaments?
Are there any C teams left? Like, there's like one, right? It's the Sunbeam stack.
There's like one.
That's it.
I mean, Boom
Who
beat
else?
Aurora and Talon in order to get this spot in the first
I know,
place.
but like, if you think about the last 2 years of Dota, like, what C team do you even remember?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, it's just there's just one. There's usually
Yeah.
just one C
It's
team
them.
at any given time that
It's that fucking
is
Aurora
even
Sunbeam
approaching
stack.
tier one. Maybe you can't even say they're tier one, but they're
No, I don't
they're
think
the
you
ones
can.
going to LAN events. Yeah.
I don't think there's been another C team that's done anything in the last few years except that stack. So I don't know, man. Not like, is this region just dead? Like, what is happening? Like, get your shit together. Jesus. It's fucking embarrassing. South America even won a LAN before you guys have in like
Dude,
the last
that is
6
true.
years.
Oh my
It's
god.
like, what the fuck is happening in this region with so much talent? Just no organization, no leadership, Skamaz orgs. No one talks about that aspect, but there's a lot of fucking Skamaz. I mean, there's Skamaz orgs everywhere, but like, they have their
Oh
fair
yeah,
share.
I hung out with Misery for a little bit. Another victim of the bleed
he's been scammed.
Skamaz org.
He's been scammed in his time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you've been around that long, you're gonna get scammed by a couple orgs. Like,
I think he's one of the few players who's been scammed in multiple regions, actually, which is not a list you want to end up on, but Erasmus will end up there. Yeah, I don't know. What am I looking forward to? I mean, it's a C tournament, so I think the crowd and the stage and all that is going to be hype and should be fun. I don't think the quality of the teams is as high as some events I've seen, but that doesn't mean the games are going to be worse. If anything, it might mean they're better because it's more even across the board and just you're going to have some like crazy storylines, right? So
yeah.
that could be cool. I'm kind of looking forward to that. I actually don't like when we just have a year and every tournament is like the same 10 teams. I think it gets really stale. Like watching Falcons win their 8th LAN versus Liquid winning their 6th versus Gaiman winning their 9th. Like, I don't know about, I can't speak for everybody, but it gets really stale after a while. So
who's your give me a dark horse out of this list of teams?
I'd have to look at the list, man.
You know, we have the top dogs of Falcons, Bedboom, Spirit, Party Vision, Liquid. And I think you could probably throw Gaoju up there as well. Avalus is the Western European representative, so they're probably, one of the top 8 teams as well. Navi, Nigma, Boom, Bisco, Shopify. Which one of these teams do you think is gonna step up and have like, a decent run?
I mean, are you counting the Chinese representative here or no?
No, I said they're already one of the favorites. We all know it. I'm talking about I'm talking about the regions that are
honestly
not good.
This might not be the team you expect me to say. I'm going to say Beast Coast.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually think it's Beast Coast or maybe Nigma.
I think they're finally Kuro's back on land, baby.
I could see Nigma. Yeah, I could see Nigma get like a top 4. I don't think they're gonna win it, but I could see them get like a 4th or maybe a 3rd on a really good day.
And they always leveled up on land. They always did.
True. I mean, it's like this is the first LAN with Miracle and Sumail on it in how long? I don't even fucking know.
And it's in Southeast Asia, dude. The fans are gonna go insane for
That's
being
what I'm
able
saying,
to
dude.
see
So
these guys.
I'm gonna say them just because I hope they I hope they make it deep because it'd be hype as hell.
If they make some sort of Cinderella run to the finals, oh, it would be so hype.
So I'm going to send them some good karma. But I think Beast Coast actually looks the best. I think that team is pretty underrated. I think they have good core players between Pike, Lumpy, Illich. I think all of those guys are players that are very solid, pretty high skill, up and coming, a lot to prove. They have the Moose veteranship. Like this is a good team. Do not sleep on that team. I'm not saying they're going to win the event or that their ceiling is as high as Heroics was with Parker, but honestly, if Lumpy starts popping off, that team has a lot of potential. Like they're going to surprise some people. So I actually would put them like top 6 this event if they play up to their standard and potentially higher. They're my dark horse.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to close out another episode of Not For Broadcast. Thank you very much for watching. We're going to record in Thailand, most likely. Let us know anything you want us to eat in Thailand. If you've got something that you think we should check out in Thailand, you're like, yo, this dish, go get some of that. Let us know. Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.